Well, g'day, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Mad Dragons vodcast. And the lid is off. We are buying our grand final tickets tomorrow. The St. George Illawarra Dragons, they have flogged the Parramatta Eels, and we are excited. I'm joined by Darren Young and also Benny O'Brien tonight. I'll start with you, Youngy. How excited? Are you as excited as me?
My heart's still pumping. That's how good that was. That was a brilliant game.
My heart stopped. I don't know how yours is still going.
Yeah. Edge of the seat stuff. But we got away with it in the end. They always seemed like they were going to come back at us, but we held our nerve and grinded them out, and good result.
Benny, before we start breaking the game down, that opening 40 minutes for the Dragons. When was the last time that you can remember the Dragons playing that well?
Oh, mate, it's been a while, that's for sure. Like I said last week, you can tell the players are really playing for each other and they're all lifting, and it's really good to see, but just solid, so solid, like the speed in defence was awesome. It was just so good to watch, as a Dragons fan, we're always up and down, and you don't know what you're going to get, but that was a solid half of footy, and I think it really laid the platform for the game. Even though they came back at us, in the sort of first 10 of the second half, I think we had it in the bag. Yeah. We shocked them. Yeah, no, we absolutely shocked them. I think that the Parramatta Eels showed us absolutely no respect in that first 40. They came out and they just thought, we've got Junior Paulo, we've got Nathan Brown, we've got Regan Kent. We're just gonna go straight through the middle of you guys. We're gonna smash you through the middle of the park. I tell you what, any team in the competition that wants to take on the Dragons through the middle of the field, we are going to hammer them. There is no way any other team is going to stand up against and that comes down to the coach. Our forward pack hasn't bloody changed from last year when they were marshmallows. Youngy, am I wrong?
Spot on. Yeah, I thought we were the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man last year, but they really stick in defence this year and really hurt in the tackles. So it's really good because it makes the opposition want to go around you rather than through the middle.
Yeah. All right, Benny, let's talk about the first try. So Matt Duffy goes ball player again. So often when Matt Duffy goes ball player, it's a long pass out to the winger. But this time it was a short ball to Jack Bird, who was too big, too strong. He crashed over. It was a great start.
Yeah, mate. I think Duffy's ball play has been awesome. His service is just on point, he has a few, odd passes here and there, but it's like he really wants to sort of almost play 5'8" for mine. I think he did more than Norman did, personally. I don't think Norman really took charge and really laid a platform for, the outside backs. But Duffy just seemed to be there and give them the service that they needed. And Jack Bird, he had an absolute blinder of a game, His confidence, again, it's just gone through the roof, which has been really good to see. And for me, he feels like he's at home. Like he's an Illawarra junior, obviously, but and he did, play the junior ranks with us, and then obviously went elsewhere. But it feels like he's at home, and it's awesome to see,
Yeah, no, I mean, Jack Bird, has been absolutely phenomenal, and he's come back from a suspension. You're absolutely right. He looks right at home. But Youngy, on Matt Duffy, the Dragons haven't offered him a contract yet, but why would we consider letting him go? He set up that try on the left. He had a blinding pass on the right to set up a try on the other side of the field for Ravaloa. His ball playing ability, as well as the fact that every single time there's an outside-inside play and Duffy's there, he is a constant threat. Why would we not have offered him a contract yet?
Yeah, I don't know what they're waiting for. There's a lot of clubs that'll be lining up for him at the moment and thinking, well, if they don't want him, if they still don't want to sign him, we'll take him. because to have a fullback that can ball play like that, they're short in supply, I'd say.
Well, I know the Dragons seem to have a lot of options coming through, but we've got one that's performing right now. He's performing. He's doing the job, and I think it's going to be very hard to not want him around. Surely we want to keep him.
Yeah, well, I heard for years when McGregor was the coach, they were always after a ball-playing fullback, and now you got one. So why they haven't signed him yet, it's got me beat.
Yeah.
Sign him up now.
We'll talk about Dufty, Benny. The penalty try. Yes or no? What are your thoughts on the penalty try that Dufty got given?
For me, yeah. Again, one-eyed Dragon supporter, but I think he would have got there. He's that quick off the mark. And yeah, what do you do? Obviously it deserved to be a penalty. The referee and the official saw it that way, so good for us. Yeah.
Youngy, you were the same opinion that penalty try was the right call?
Mate, he would have got there, he would have leaned on the post, and he would have smoked a cigar. He would have got there. I'm that certain he would have got. He had plenty of time.
See, for me, I think he gets there. I think he 100% gets to the ball. My question, I have two questions. One is the post. Would he can't go through the post. He would have had to avoid the post either inside or outside, even without the attention of Nathan Brown. Maybe he runs into the post. He has to go around the post. And also, Ravalawa wasn't that far away. So while Dufty probably would have got to the ball first, I've got some question marks as to whether there would have been some attention from Ravalawa, not Ravalawa, the Sevo. So Sevo was right there, and he would have been there putting pressure on him, and possibly would have prevented him from scoring the try. So I would have been happy either way. I was obviously stoked with the penalty try decision, but I mean, if it hadn't been given a try, then it's a penalty to the Dragons, and Nathan Brown's in the sin bin for 10 minutes. Now, Nathan Brown, he was one eel that caused us all sorts of headaches. So getting him off the field for 10 minutes is probably worth more than 6. So, it might have worked out better for us if it had gone the other way.
Yeah, I don't think it was a real turning point in the game, but, if it didn't get allowed, I think, we laid the platform and we were solid the whole game. So, it was a little bit scary sort of coming out in the second half when they, chucked that try on. But yeah, we were solid. I don't think it would have turned the game.
Yeah. All right. So opening sort of 20 minutes or so, you talked about Corey Norman, and I totally agree. I think Corey Norman was off tonight for the most part. I think he had some flashes. He had a couple of decent moments, but he didn't look like the player that was sort of man of the match, close to man of the match in the last 2 games. Adam Clune, on the other hand, I thought in the opening 20 minutes he was probably the best player on the field. He had some good moments after that, but that opening 20 minutes, he was unbelievable. And, I think set up another try sort of later on, or a line break later on as well. But Adam Clune, I thought he was in attack. He was better than he has been for a while for the Dragons. Benny?
Yeah, 100%, mate. I totally agree. And I'm not a huge fan of Norman. Whether he's playing for a contract at the moment or not is sort of yet to be seen. But Clune, yeah, super solid. But what happens when Benny Hunt comes back? You know what I mean? What's the option then? So, I think Norman's got to do
that's still a couple of weeks away. That's still a couple of weeks away until Benny's back. I mean, if Clune can keep putting on best on ground performances week in, week out, that makes the decision for Hook pretty difficult, doesn't it?
Yeah, it certainly does. Like I was just saying, I think Norman's got to do a lot of work, really, to keep his spot and prove that he wants to be there for the next year or two. But for me, he's just not showing it.
Well, Youngy, I know you're sort of a bit of the opposite opinion. You're a bit of a Corey Norman fan. Do you want to respond to that?
Yeah. Look, this week I've got to agree. I thought he was a bit off. Didn't really show the starts that he did last week. I thought he was good at times last week, but yeah, that missed tackle that led to the try that was disallowed. That was a clear miss by him. He probably should have taken that tackle. But I think he was a bit off this week.
Yeah, but it's just this week though. Yeah, it's not. We shouldn't be thinking about dropping Norrie.
Every player has a bad game, but yeah. Say that again.
I think his kicking game was better this week. He found a lot more open space. He's pretty prone to kicking to wingers and fullbacks, but this week he had some real blinders. Found a lot of open space and gave our chase a lot of time to get there. So I thought that was good on his part, but he just wasn't directing the field. He wasn't hitting the holes and giving the service that the outside backs needed, in my opinion.
It's a bit lazy in defence, I thought.
Yeah.
He looked like to me, he looked like the Norman that everyone criticises him for being. Like, it was a classic Corey Norman just floating around the field, and everybody else was up and about. Everybody else was really hyped. And Corey Norman was just Corey Norman, wasn't he?
Yeah.
So we lost blocker. We lost. I thought if Adam Clune wasn't the best on the field in the opening 20 minutes, Blake Laurie was. Blake Laurie's opening 15-minute stint was outstanding. It was really aggressive. He was off the line quick. He was right up in the face of the Eels. He was intimidating and scary, which, I think a lot of people have said blocker isn't very often. And then we lost him. That was a big blow for the Dragons, and we rode it pretty well. Youngy.
Yeah, I agree. I've probably been a little bit critical of Blocker, but the last few games I've been watching him, he's been really good. So, I have to concede. He's playing well. Good form.
So, I suppose looking at the injury, Benny, do you think it's going to be something that'll keep him out next week?
I don't think so, mate. Corked quad from what I understand. So maybe a couple of weeks. Just depends how he's going to run on it when he gets back on his feet during the week. But maybe a week off. But, physios will know more than I do.
Yeah, and I certainly don't want to – I don't want to lose him for a week. I think he's been outstanding. He's been a bloke that from round 1 to round 4, every week – in between, he's got better, and it was the same in this game until he got hurt. I thought this was shaping to be his best performance. I thought he was his opening was really, really good, and it was a big blow to lose him that early in the game. We might have won by more if he had stayed fit.
Yeah, well, I said last week, he's got real mongrel in him, which is good to see. And all the forwards, they're really muscling up. And I think it's catching a lot of teams off guard. They're not used to that from the Dragons, Like the last couple of years, we've sort of, floated around and, we've been, average in defence, to say it the least. But this year, they're all muscling up. We're hitting hard. We're in their faces. And I don't think the opposition likes it at all. So let's keep it going.
All right, so I want to talk a little bit about defence. And the first player I want to highlight here is Zach Lomax. Zach Lomax, he is quite often thought of like if his attacking ability, his ability to shimmy, shake a little bit like Mark Gasnier and, get on the outside of his man or catch the ball, the high ball and score tries. But tonight, Zach Lomax's defence was incredibly aggressive and frequent. Like, he was up in the face again, and every time he made a tackle, he looked like he wanted to tear the intestines out of his opponent and show them to him. It was that aggressive. I mean, Youngy, how good was it?
Yeah, very aggressive. I mean, you look at Zach Lomax last year, and I agree with you. No question his attack has always been there. But when it comes to defence, he's always sort of scared me a bit. Like, he rushes up out of the line. I've seen him in the past cook those. But his timing this year has just been, particularly tonight, was spot on.
I was going to say, well, Benny, I mean, on what Youngy says, how much of that is coaching and how much of it is Lomax?
I think it's a bit of both. obviously, Hook's got a game plan, and they've changed their defensive pattern from the last couple of years. I've noticed, but the whole line's moving up. It's not individual players. I remember when I was playing footy, we were always taught, like you come up as a line, you might have a 2 metre gap between you, but if one of you go up, it ends up being a 5 metre gap. So there's holes everywhere. But the whole line's moving up, and they're hitting hard. And Lomax tonight, he was on fire. Like you said, he was hitting and he was meaning it. He really wanted to hurt him and do solid hits, and it was awesome. Really good.
Yeah, almost like an up and in defence, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's a bit of a sliding attack too. The last couple of seasons they were playing that sort of umbrella defence, and I don't think it was really working. But the up and in and sliding it's a lot more solid because, like I said, they're just not finding those gaps that the last couple of years they were finding. And I think he's been watching a bit of Illawarra as well. Like he hits like a steam train, and tonight Lomax was doing the same sort of thing, really muscling up. Good to see.
Well, while we're talking about Michaeli Ravalawa, let's talk a little bit about Tom Opacek. What do you think it's going to feel like for Tom Opacek to be shitting his own ribs for the next 3 days?
What ribs? He's probably got none left.
I think they need an excavator to dig him out still.
Oh, some of those hits that he put on him, fair income. I don't know. How did he keep getting up? Like, fair income, how did Tom Opacek finish that game? Because Michaeli Ravalawa, I reckon 3 times in that game, just drove through his ribs. And, there were ribs coming out of his mouth, there were ribs coming out of his aim and stuff. They were going everywhere. Like you said, he doesn't have any left.
No, he's a tough kid, that's for sure. I don't think I'd survive a tackle by Rava. But I played a lot of footy, but... he's a tough kid, that's for sure.
Yeah, I was cringing at times. They were solid hits.
So half-time, the Dragons led 18 points to 0. I'll just get a quick thought from both of you on our opening 40. Youngy, you go first.
Executed brilliantly. I thought they, from the very get-go, they stepped down the field, they were just on. So normally our problem is slow starts. But, they were just on from the get-go, executed brilliantly. Missed tackles were minimal. Completions were brilliant. Yeah, I was really impressed with that first 40.
Benny?
Yeah, me too, mate. I said earlier, it was just a really solid half of footy. It was semi-final footy to me. It felt like a semi-final. The crowd had a lot to do with it. So it was a great atmosphere. It's a good stadium to play footy at. But it just had a real buzz about it. And I think the players feed off that a lot, obviously, on field. But, like Youngy said, just, completion rate, awesome. Not a lot of drop ball or sort of stupid stuff, we've had in our game previously. The players all lifted. They were all solid, playing for each other. Hook's doing a lot of really good stuff there. You can really see it coming through. I don't think we've had
a coach, isn't he?
Like that. Yeah, 100%. He's really old school to me. He's coaching him sort of a bit of an old school way. It's really good to see. Yeah, but I sort of like we said last week, you can overcomplicate footy. Yeah, it's a really simple game at the root of it all. And a lot of coaches try to get technical and all that sort of stuff, but it was really good to see.
Yeah, so all right, before we move into the second half too much, I want to touch on a little bit of Dragons news. Billy Burns in the swap with Eddie Blacker. So Billy Burns in, Eddie Blacker out. Youngy, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I didn't know a heck of a lot about him, so I Googled him to watch some of his highlights, and he's a little bit Steve Menzies like, isn't he? It's almost like Lane from Parramatta, tall, rangy sort of player. Could be a good addition.
Benny, your thoughts?
Yeah, I actually watched the New South Wales Cup game earlier, and watching him play, he's pretty solid. Obviously, it's not first grade, but I think you can do a lot of work with him. I don't know where I see him slotting into first grade team, but with injuries and everything else that goes along in the season, who knows? But he looks like a pretty solid young kid.
So for me, I see it a little bit of a horses for courses type situation with him and Josh Kerr. I think Kerr bashing it on the edge. If we've got a weak defensive link in the opposition that he can target and run over the top of, then you want Josh Kerr doing it. But if they've got some big, solid guys on the edges, then a guy with a footwork like Billy Burns could be really quite effective. So I can see it being a little bit sort of who are we playing against? And if we're playing against a team that's got some big outside backs and some big edge forwards, then maybe Billy Burns comes in and gives that sort of, he's got really, really sharp footwork. So I think he can play a real role for us and perhaps even see Josh Kerr move back in towards the middle, towards the back end.
In the middle.
So, I think a lot of people still see Josh Kerr as that big bloke that can punch through the middle and provide that impact for us. And Burns might allow Hook to actually sort of make that transition and transition Kerr back to the middle. So I think that's going to be really interesting to see how that plays out.
And it feels like Hook has a plan for each game too, which we didn't see from McGregor last year. But you look at the last 3 or 4 games, there's been slight variances in the way that the team's going about stuff. It definitely comes down to Hook's coaching. So I'd love to see what he's doing behind the scenes with them. Whether they're watching videos or studying plays and playmakers and stuff like that. Because it seems like he has a real battle plan for each game, and it's obviously working. We're getting the results. The players are a lot more driven, a lot more focused on the job at hand too, like not floating around last year like they were. So it's good to see.
Improvement's been out of sight.
Yeah.
Okay, so while we're talking some, I suppose, more general rugby league stuff before we get into the second half, the other thing that I suppose I wanted to touch on was the 18th man rule. So it came in this week. It didn't really get utilised, but it still looks like something that we need and aren't using correctly in an NRL-wide perspective. What changes, if any, would you like to see to that 18th man rule, Youngy?
I suppose it's sort of hard to say until it all sort of starts playing out and we start seeing some negatives down the track, because it is still fairly new to us. But I guess they probably got it right at the moment. It did have to happen though, because what happened to Newcastle a week before, getting left short of players, that can't happen. You can't expect a team, to have 5-6 injuries and just play with like 10 players on the field. So,
I suppose this week, Benny, the one of the big questions actually came from the Newcastle game where Tyson Frizzell came through, made a tackle where he hit a player high, knocked him out, and they weren't allowed to use the 18th man rule in that situation. Do they need to make some adjustments to how they actually, like the restrictions around when you can use the 18th man?
Yeah, I think so. It's going to be an odd one to see how it plays out, like Youngy was saying. But they need it because the pace of the game these days, I was reading some articles of players that were saying the injuries at the moment are through the roof and last year as well because just the sheer pace of the game. So they need to do something because, as much as we belted the out of Newcastle last week, they can't play, with 12 players or it's not fair on the other guys, you start to play a weak team, you're going to get more injuries and, you're a player short, so everyone else lifts and pushes harder and it's like a snowball effect. So I think they need to really have a good think about, like you said, when they can implement that 18th man. These guys are professional sports people and they're getting belted, you know what I mean? So I think it's for everyone's safety, there's got to be some common sense with it. So hopefully the next few weeks we see how that sort of plays out. But I think it's a bit early to tell. I just hope that the NRL and that have really got their head around how they're going to use it because it's easy to just throw in a system without testing it. So let's just hope it works.
Yeah. So for me, my opinion is that just bring in the 18th man. Just have an 18th reserve on the bench. Get rid of all the restrictions. No restrictions. the team can decide how they want to use that reserve. But once the reserve comes on, whoever they replace can't go back on. So in our situation tonight, like Blake Laurie was ruled out for the game. Bring in the 18th man. He's on. Blake Laurie's gone for the game. We've still got 17 players on the field, and it doesn't disadvantage the team who loses a player for any particular reason. And you know, if a team wants to use it tactically, if the Roosters or the Storm want to use it tactically, let them. Like, remove all restrictions and just let the team decide how they want to use that 18th man. If they want to use it for a HIA player that might be ruled out at some stage in the game, let them do that. If they want to use it for a bloke that's got a knee injury and is out for the rest of the season, let them use it. Let the club use it how they want to use it. And I think there's so much concern about a club, you know, using the rules and using it to their own advantage. It's like, well, just let them do whatever they need to do and have this 18th man sitting there to keep the competition fair and keep the game going. Yeah,
like, I don't think you need to overcomplicate it. You know, if it's for the health and well-being of a player, I'm all for it. But I think, like you said, once it's been used, you know, the player that comes off can't go back on. And teams are going to use that tactically. You know, 4 points down, coming into the last 10 minutes, you know, you've got a speedster on the bench. Of course, you're going to chuck them on, you know, fresh player. But like you said, if that's what it takes for those sort of teams to win games, then good luck to them, you know. But I think the health and safety of the players has got to be at the forefront of using that, you know.
Yeah. So a fantastic first half from the Dragons. We went out in the second half and we kind of looked a bit of a different team. And in certainly the opening 15 to 20 minutes or so of the second half. And part of that was around, once again, set restarts. Youngy, was this the referee targeting at us, or was this the Dragons implementing their strategy and taking it too far?
No, I think it's just the way the game played out. We just had to defend. Like Parramatta were on, they came out pretty strong, trying to get themselves back into the game, and we just didn't let them do it. This is where I thought we defended really, really well.
So, Benny, the sin bin of Tarek Sims, fair, unfair? What are your thoughts?
I don't know, mate. I said it last week. I think the refs are really giving us a hard time for it. But in saying that too, like I said last week, if we're going to get pinged for it, we've got to get it out of our game. You know, to be down to 12 players because of something as petty as that, like, come on. You know what I mean? All you're doing is making hard work for yourself. You know, just get it out of your game. I think we're playing quick enough that we can cover that. You know, if a player's going to get up a split second quicker than what they normally would, our line should be back in set. So, again, they've got to get it out of their game because obviously we're going to keep getting hammered for it. Yeah, that's my thoughts on that anyway.
Yeah, I think my thoughts are that in the first half, I felt there were a number of, like, I felt in the first half we got punished for dominating the ruck. We were getting up quickly, we were smashing them, we were dominating that ruck. We were getting on top of them, and we deserved more time there because we dominated it, and we were getting punished for it with set restarts. And so the first half, I thought it was unfair. The second half, I thought we were a little cynical. And I think we were intentionally trying to slow them down. We kept getting pinged for it, and we left the referee with no choice. And he had to put Tarek in the sin bin. So first half, I thought we were hard done by. Second half, I think we did the wrong thing. So I think a bit goes each way. I still think there was quite a few that we should have got set restarts, and I don't think the ref was consistent, but they're never going to be consistent on those.
Yeah. That's my only concern with it. It's at the total discretion of the referee, you know. And I'm sitting there half the time going, you know, get off, because I'm freaking out. We're going to get a bloody set restart. And, you know, some of these blokes are 110 kilos, and you're like, you try getting up off the ground every bloody 2 minutes when you're 110 kilos, you know, after you've just wrestled a bloke to the ground. Like, come on, you know what I mean? There's got to be a bit of give and take either way. But, I think it probably was a few of them that were deserved, like you said, towards the second half. I think we were laying on the player, but I think we were just trying to slow the game down, just wear it out. But in saying that too, we did a lot of stuff tonight that frustrated the Eels. Like we were in their face, we were laying on them, we were getting a little bit niggly, and no one's used to that from the Dragons. We weren't doing that the last couple of years, so it's good to see.
Yeah.
It's a bit of fire in the boys.
Well, to talk about people.
I agree with you, Benny.
Sorry, Youngy, talk about people that were niggling the Eels. Let's talk about the battle between Cody Ramsey and Blake Ferguson. Youngy, how did you see this one?
I thought he did an outstanding job on him. That was my one concern this week, that he was just going to get owned by Ferguson. But he was just all over him like glue this week. Him and Jack Bird, actually. It was a running battle between the three of them.
He did awesome. I sort of had similar concerns as to what Youngy had. It's that old age versus experience, Ferguson obviously is a very accomplished footballer, but Ramsey just gave it to him. It was awesome. He's up in his face and giving him a bit of lip, and he was there when he needed to be there. And obviously, having Bird outside of him helps. He's a super strong defender, but he was where he needed to be every time he needed to be there, and it was good to see. But it was definitely frustrating, Ferguson. You could see it. He wasn't liking it at all. Like, he's a bit of a sook normally, but he wasn't happy.
Yeah, nah, he's a massive sook, and there was one stage there where the Eels got given a 6 again. Blake Ferguson got up complaining, saying he deserved a 6 again. They'd already been given it, and yet he walked towards the referee and he was wagging his finger at the referee, telling him that he deserved a 6 again. He'd already been given it. Like, he should have been penalised for the way that he was talking to the referee after he'd already been given what he wanted. Like, I don't understand. Like, he is a massive sook. And that was all down to Cody Ramsey frustrating the living shit out of him. Like, like, every single time the ball went out to Ferguson, I was sitting in my living room and I was screaming, "You've got him, Corey. You own him. He is yours." And he owned him the entire night. It was a sensational one-on-one performance from Cody Ramsey. He might not have got the accolades in terms of metres gained or tries, but he controlled Blake Ferguson. He shut him down completely and blocked him out of the game. It was a great performance.
He's the ultimate spoiler. Yeah.
You go.
When he put his own arm out of touch because he was having a sook to the touchy. That was awesome.
He was in the field of play. He was in the field of play, and then he wins to the touch judge and put his own arm out of touch. It was the funniest thing the entire night. It was fantastic. And it couldn't have happened to a better bloke, really.
Yeah, but that's kind of in retrospect of how annoying Cody Ramsey was. He was just complaining about everything because he was, let's face it, Cody Ramsey was a pain in the ass. So it was just getting to him. Yeah, absolutely. Some people just want to swap, but you can't get him.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, he's all over it. It was awesome.
Yeah. But wouldn't you like to see Cody Ramsey get a bit more space? Because every time he seems to get the ball, like, he's just got no room to move. They need to find a way to create more space that he can run into.
He's quick. He's really quick. If we can get him space, then. But that's not always an easy thing to do. I mean, we've got a good ball player inside him in Jack Bird. We're getting good quick ball. We want to get early ball to Jack Bird as well. I think that'll come in different games, but this wasn't the game for it. This was a game where he had to own his opposite man, and he did.
But Bird's a real strong runner of the football. So he'll take the line on every time. You know what I mean? So obviously if he can get an arm free and pop a ball out. But I don't think he's going to be the sort of guy that's going to give Cody the service just running through the hands. You know, he's going to take the line on every time. That's just the sort of player that Bird is.
He wants the contact.
Yeah, 100%. But like you said, Ramsey's quick. You get him in open space, you know, they won't catch him.
Yeah,
Something I really want to see.
I think there will be times during the course of the year where Jack Bird will he'll draw the winger and centre into him and offload to Ramsey in space, and we will get to see it, but it just wasn't tonight. A few things did go our way. The Parramatta. So this was probably a key moment in the game. The Eels were looking to get on top, and they scored a try, but it was called a no try for an obstruction. Benny, I'll start with you. What were your thoughts on that call?
That was a tough one for me too. I think it probably should have been a try. And like you said, it was at a pretty critical time of the game. But you know what? It's about time we had a few calls go our way. There's a heap that don't. And it feels like, the refs and the bunker are against us. So maybe it's a bit of karma coming back. Who knows?
Youngy, did you think that
it was outside shoulder though, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, that's what they said. It's because it was outside shoulder. So, but you know what? Would he have got there? I don't think so personally.
Yeah.
So that's
I don't think he would have either.
So that's my big thing. He hit the outside shoulder, but he hit the outside shoulder of the defender that was like 3 players away. Like, he was not getting across to close that space. The player that didn't get hit didn't get across to close the space. So how was the player that was inside him going to get across?
Didn't the play at all.
No. It was one of those ones where technically you can say it's the correct decision, but I can understand why Eels fans would be pissed off about it.
Yeah, it was a soft defensive effort anyway.
Norman was at fault.
Yeah, 100%. And they're the tackles you've got to make. It doesn't matter if you're 20 points in front. Parramatta are one of those sides. They can put 2 or 3 tries on you before you know it. So it was just a soft defensive effort for me. But like I said, sometimes the dice roll your way.
Well, at the end of the day, the Dragons get the win. We deserve the win. We were the better team throughout the 80 minutes. That sees us into the top 4 for the first time, and this might surprise a few people. This first time we've been inside the top 4 since when was the last time you think we were in the top 4? Youngy? I know the answer. I've looked it up.
God. Was it 2017, 2016, something like that? That's probably a long time. Yeah, it got me. I can see. I don't know.
As late as round 23 in 2018, we were in the top 4. So, I mean, I think a lot of people forget how good we were for a lot of 2018. So we sort of faded. I think we finished 7th at the end of 2018. But, for a lot of that season, we were right up there competing with the top teams. So it's not that long since we've been in the top 4, but it's a good feeling being back there, isn't it, Benny?
It just feels like it. Just feels like it's been forever.
Yeah, so next weekend against the Warriors. So the New Zealand Warriors, I think it's fair to say they were shithouse this weekend against, they lost to Manly. I mean, it was a horrible game of footy. Both teams were absolutely dreadful. But the Warriors have a habit of turning up against us. Do you have any fears for this game, Youngy?
No, I reckon we should be able to go on with this. This could be the game we get to see Cody Ramsey open the Jets up.
Yeah, Benny, the Warriors hold any fears for you, or do you think this is finally an easy win for us?
I don't think we're going to have any easy wins this year. We're going to have to work for all of them. But that's good because we haven't really done that for a while, But like Youngy said, I'd love to see a more open style of football, even if it's just for 1 week, A lot of our tries have been off kicks or, the forwards, just bashing it through the middle. I'd like to see a bit more of those outside backs and wingers getting a good run, But let's see what happens next week.
Warriors still are a bit clunky.
Bit clunky, I thought, in the second half, but I thought the first half was slick as fuck. But that just about wraps it up here for the Parramatta Eels game. But Youngy, any final thoughts on either the game tonight or the game next week?
No, this one tonight, it really surprised me. I was really, really pleased with that. That was just brilliant. And the execution is really starting to come together again. So I'm really pleased.
Benny, final thoughts?
Yeah, tonight it was just awesome. It was just awesome as a Dragons fan. That's what we live for. That's my hands are still sweating. It's just that exciting. I just hope we can roll on with it. Sort of like I said last week. It's almost, is it too good to be true? But I think the work that Hook's doing there, it's awesome. The players, they're up. The fans are up. It's so good to see. That's the Dragons that we all know and love, and we deserve it. We got so much rich history and all that sort of stuff, and our squad on paper would rival anyone in the comp. So yeah, let's just keep it rolling, boys.
People had us for the spoon early in the season too. So let's not forget that. We're in the top 4 and the Bulldogs at the bottom of the ladder. How good is that?
Yeah, well, I know where they can stick that spoon.
Well, like you said, Youngy, I mean, there was a lot of doubters at the start of the season. As it is now, I'll see you all at the grand final. We've been the Mad Dragons. This has been the Mad Dragons podcast. We'll see you next week.